Hey, I'm Aaron of Woodworking, and I'm going to show you how I made this easy DIY shoe rack for my family. Let's take a moment and talk about the lumber that you're going to need for this project. So I have an 8-foot 2x2, so that's 1 inch by, it's 1.5 by 1.5 inches. This is 3/4 of an inch by 2.5 inches. This is 3/4 of an inch by 5.5 inches. So those are the actual measurements. This is an 8-foot board, 8-foot board, and a 6-foot board. A little note I want to share with you guys, a little tip is this. These all have defects. Now, there's different ways I can get around these defects, but because of them, I got 70% off. So that made this project, I think, probably like 15 bucks for me. So pretty good deal. So if you guys go to the big box stores, try to find the ones with defects, you'll save a lot of money. The first thing I want to note is even though these boards are already planed and they have a very nice soft surface, the ends of them need to be cleaned up. So I'm going to use my track saw. Again, you can use a circular saw or a chop saw or whatever. But I need to cut it off because it's not true, and it also gives a nice clean edge. So I'm going to be using my track. It's a small one. I love having a small one, especially for this. I don't like having a 4-foot track to cut 5.5 inches. And then I use this rail square. That way it's nice and perpendicular, it's square. And then I actually put the parallel guide on top of it. That way, when it's on there, it actually gives us some support so it doesn't just flop over. So I'm gonna cut this now. All right, and that edge looks a lot nicer. So now that I've got that clean edge, I'm gonna use that for reference, and I'm gonna make my 2 30-inch cuts, and then I need to make a 30-inch cuts on this one. So I'm gonna do that right now. I was mentioning earlier that there was some damage, and here it is. So the nice thing is, I don't need to use that. In fact, I can get my 30 inches from here and from this other end that is perfectly clean. So just to save time, I just went ahead and cut these. I didn't film it, but I think you guys know how to use a miter saw. One quick note I will say is think about order of operations. And I don't mean math from, elementary or high school, but I was going to cut the other lumber with my track saw, and I thought, wait, why would I do that when I already had this hooked up to dust collection? So I'm gonna knock out everything with the miter saw that I need to, and then I'll switch over to the track saw again. So as you can see here, I have some minor imperfections, especially compared to the other piece. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put a round over on this side, and then where it connects, there won't be a round over. Otherwise, there's going to be a gap. So let's get that taken care of. So I've got almost all my material cut out and ready. And then the last thing I need to do is to cut this board in half. So I don't know if this has made it into the video already. I may have cut this part out, but what I did is I figured out the center point, and I know my kerf, the blade width is 2 millimeters. So what I can do is I can put this, let's see here. This goes right where the kerf will be. I can butt it up against here like this. The thing is, I do need to have a little more support. So in this case, I'm actually going to use the second piece as my support. There we go. Again, straight lines up, butt up against here. And this doesn't have to be perfect. This can be very close, but I want to get the best I can do. So let's see here. So do this, and then do this. Now one trick I have found is to take the saw and to put it on top. That way you have some weight, because you can be going back and forth over and over again. So this is right, and this looks pretty good. It's good enough. So now I need to make that cut. And I noticed that the hose is around the tripod. So let me get that fixed and we'll make the cut. So if I measured right, this should be very close in width to this, and I think it might be like a 1/4 inch difference, yeah. That's close enough. And that was the thing, is I'm gonna sandwich this between, so this is gonna go between the two that I'm actually cutting in half. But there we go. So at this point, we're getting very close to assembly. We have the legs of our shoe rack right here, the supports that are going to go in the middle. So just to give you guys an idea, we're just going to put this, whoops, let's see here. So this is going to be the bottom, and then this is going to be the top. The nice thing is with this wood, I won't have to do very much sanding at all. Probably just like a quick run over of like 180, but yeah, we're getting very close. And then I'm gonna put a small chamfer on these slats real quick. So if you guys are aware, and most of you probably already are, I'm gonna be using pocket holes to do the joinery. And the reason why is it's strong, it's fast, it'll be more or less concealed. You're not gonna see the holes that are made by it. So let's get drilling. So something I want to talk about with pocket holes is I have a love-hate relationship with them. And the reason why is pocket holes tend to wander, and that can cause some slight misalignment. Now, ultimately, you can sand that out, but that creates another step. So to help mitigate that, what I try to do is use some clamps. That way I can kind of help prevent it from moving as much, and then that helps with the issue. I'm just gonna use this piece at the top, just that way I can clamp here. I'm gonna use this little angle attachment. I don't have a lot of room to maneuver, so this should work pretty good. Okay, let's drive it in. Okay, that went in. That's pretty good. Again. Okay, and that should be plenty. All right, now we gotta do these legs, but I need to figure out the height first. So it's a new day, new evening rather, and I decided with this piece, initially I was gonna have the chamfered side facing down. I'm gonna have it facing outward. I just think that's a little bit nicer looking personally. But the thing is, it's so narrow right here that I'm only putting one pocket screw on each side instead of two. Now I wanna show you guys something really cool here. So there's a few little things going on, but the first I wanna take your attention to is this clamp right here. So these clamps, the bottom can come off, and so if you don't have the expensive clamps like the Festool ones that go into the MFT style table, you can use a simple clamp like this, and I think they're like $15 each, as opposed to say $45, $50 each. very easy to use. Now I have a little stop block here, and initially my thought was, well, I wanted to have shoes underneath, and given that this is about 13.5 inches, or rather 15, I think, I'm not gonna have enough room. So I just want enough space underneath, but really the shoes are gonna be stored here and here, not underneath. So that is a little change that we're gonna go with. So let's drill these in now. Okay. By the way, this drill attachment is really nice. Then I'm gonna bring over this piece. It's pretty close, but again, just wanna make sure it's consistent. Boy, by the way, these soft pads here do help not mar the wood. Pine is rather soft. I'm sure most of you guys know that, but just remind yourselves, because you don't want to have an imprint. Don't ask me how I know. Okay. And that's it for this one. Now it's time to do the other one. And I may go in manually, and so it's a little loose, but I'm actually going to hand tighten it in just a moment. But let me knock out the other one first. A little thing that I like to do is to use a ratchet just to manually tighten things up, so I can feel that a little better. See here, if I can get it in there. Okay, that's tight, and you can feel it. And that's the one thing is, unlike a machine, you can really feel, like I can hear that. It's a little small sound, but that tells me this is tight as it needs to go. Since the last take, I have applied polyurethane to both of these, a wipe-on poly from Minwax. And now I need to pre-drill the holes for this. Now, as you can see here, this is the outside of it, and I have a chamfer. So I want this to rest where the chamfer begins, not to go over it. So with that being said, I want the center, let me show you guys here. So I want the holes, two of them, 1, 2, to be centered with this right here. So that came out to about 28 millimeters. And so I set this to 14 millimeters. That way, again, it goes to the middle part. It lines up, looks nice. And then what I'm doing is, it's a little small kind of divot here. That way when you're making a pencil mark, it goes right in line. But I'm gonna take advantage of that, line it up with the chamfers on here, edge to edge. That way it's in halfway and they're spaced apart evenly. So to do this, I don't need much, but I'll show you guys. We're just going to take this again, and you know what, let me zoom up real quick for you guys so you guys can see a little bit better. As you can see here, that little divot I was referring to. Make sure that we got the zoom right, okay? Now, here's what I do. So I want these to be consistent and even. I'm going to, again, line this up with the chamfer. A little mark there, not a big one. And then, again, a little mark right here. Just gonna realign that real quick, just have a little better line there. Okay. And then I'm gonna take the center punch, which very cheap tool, a couple dollars. Punch, and then punch. Now, I have this specialty bit. They're pretty inexpensive. I'm gonna have a link below to this. But we are going to countersink and pre-drill at the same time. And then I have these brass screws right here. I think they'll just look a lot better than these more silver color ones. Just add more to the warmth. So let me drill these and I'll show you guys how that will look. It's just come through a little bit. And now the screw head will fit right in there quite nicely. Okay. Then we can move on to the next side once we get this one done. I finally completed the shoe rack. Now, I know I did not take video of me fastening this, but really it's just a couple screws going to the bottom, so I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Overall, I am very happy with how this came out. I built something kind of similar last year, but this is by far much nicer. Again, I'm very proud of this piece. Just, you know, the work it took to make it, to really do the finishing on it. And I think that's what was lacking last time, was I kind of rushed through that process, but when you want something to be nice, it's the final touches that really set it apart. So hopefully you guys learned some tips and tricks along the way. I know this was a somewhat simple build, but it's really cool to think that I took this wood that was basically marked down by 70% because it had defects, and it turned it into something nice. And just some clever little things here along the way. So if you enjoy this, please consider subscribing to this channel or liking the video. All that supports me. Even just watching it helps support the channel as we're trying to, I'm not saying this is going to be my full-time job. I very much enjoy my business that I have, but it is fun to share with you guys the journey that I'm on and to talk with you guys. So if you guys have comments or suggestions, I would love to hear it. I always respond to every single comment that I get. I don't think there's any comments I don't respond to, and I hope that will always be the case. So again, thank you so much, and I will see you guys in the next video.